you doing?
Doing great. Just juggling a little. I'm gonna
Happens,
awesome.
apparently. Little juggling.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so you've got Denise in the waiting room. I'm gonna make you the co-host, and
Okay.
then you should now be able to see the waiting room. Do you
Yeah, I
see?
see the waiting room.
Okay.
Should I let Denise in?
When you're ready. So you
Okay.
might
Are you
wait.
leaving? So you're like,
I have to leave because I have to
Okay.
run another meeting at 10 on a different
I'll do it.
Zoom.
It's fine.
Okay, you're amazing. I can't wait to connect with you at some point.
I
Very
know. We need a meeting.
we do. I'll have Erin reach out and we'll schedule some time.
Perfect.
All right, my dear. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Good morning. Oh, wait, Sherry, you're on mute. You're muted, dear.
How are you?
I'm good. It says Denise on your name.
Dennis, my husband. It usually changes to Sherry. The
It's all
host
good.
changes it. The host changes it. You know, I'm Sherry.
No problem. I recognize you. I'm like, that's not Denise. I don't know who Denise is, but
That's my hubby.
that's sweet.
So it's Dennis.
Yeah. But
Okay.
it has an E on the end.
No,
Oh.
just Dennis.
Oh, okay.
Does it look like an?
Oh, yeah.
N?
Yeah. Oh, it's just, you know why? It's because we were expecting a woman. So welcome.
Oh.
Like, who's it?
No, it's Sherry. You can you change it? Or can the
Hi,
host
Holly,
change it?
welcome. I don't think I can change it. I think you can. Hi. Nice to
I
have you
haven't met
here.
you either.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Where are you located?
Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, nice. Do you want to say anything about your rare child or children?
Sure. We have one son. His name is Zeke. He has juvenile myelocytic leukemia.
Oh.
Let's see. He was diagnosed 6 weeks after he was born in 2020. So we've just been on quite the road because there's not like a specific way to go about this. A lot of JMML ends up in transplant. So we're really trying to avoid transplant right now. And it's been a long road. It's a lot of learning.
Yeah. A lot of learning and all in the pandemic too.
Yeah, that too.
That's too. Sidebar. 2-year plus pandemic. Yeah.
Julie is struggling to find the link.
Julie is struggling to find the link.
Julie.
Okay. Let me see if I can pop it in here for you. Because Erin, let me just grab it from here. She should have gotten here. I'll pop it into the chat and maybe you can send it over to her.
Well, let me see if I can.
How's everyone else today? Susie, Laura, how you doing?
Good. I was gonna say I just was doing my math with COVID because I was trying to remember when my son got his rare genetic disorder. And then I was like, was it then? Because it comes up, it's February 26th, but I was like, was it 2019 or 2020? It's like, no, it didn't happen right before, I just was doing COVID math. I was like, no, it wasn't right before COVID. We definitely had more time before that. It's just such a bizarre, time. It's so long, but it's still a marking point. And
it is
so strange.
It's so strange. I know. It's like back when you could do like a class in a studio with other people, you could go in and it would be fine.
Yeah, I was like, we had dinner with the friends that have the same rare genetic disorder. Like, we wouldn't have been able to do that in 2020.
Exactly. Now, like, can you have dinner? I don't know. Today in California, I think they're supposedly the masks come off. I wore mine in the grocery store this morning. So yeah, it's a very strange time, to say the least. How are you, Laura? What's going
I'm
on?
pretty good. We're up in Vermont, taking a little family vacation, and yeah, it feels good to be out skiing and such. So, I feel like for me, like maybe a couple days ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, I was just like, I think I'm done with COVID. And I know that COVID's probably not done with me, but I feel like I've had a big shift in how, like, on my like stress level when I walk into a grocery store, like when I was filling up my gas tank and I was like, oh man, I remember when like getting out and just like filling up my car with gas was like mask on and like hand sanitizer after, and it was all kind of stressful for me. And now it's just like, okay, like, I don't know. It certainly helps. Like Alden tested positive for COVID in January and he was okay. And I don't know. I know that's an N of one, and I know that it's still a very like real thing. And there's a lot of public health measures that we should all be taking. And, I still am like a part of a greater system, but my stress level or attitude around it has changed it in a way that's serving me right now. So we'll see. It can always be undone.
Well, it's nice when the stress level goes down. And it's true. I do remember that. It was like hand sanitizer constantly. And then initially when you were like walking outside 20 feet away from somebody and everybody's wearing a mask, I personally knew that was a little bit much from the get-go. But, people would give you a dirty look if you didn't do it. So I, when in Rome upside down, It's Phyllis. Yay. Are you having any luck, Sherry, with getting Julie in?
I'm trying. I just told her to go to Mighty Networks, see if she can get it there.
Did you give her that link? I put it in the chat.
Well, I can't because it's on my iPad and I would have to do that on my phone.
I don't have her information, but if we could, I'm sure we could send it over to her. If I don't have her email or her, do you have her email? What is,
let's see.
Put her email in the chat or tell me what it is, and then we can have our group. Well, it's very nice to see you.
Hold on a second. I'm so slow at all this. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're arriving. It takes a moment sometimes. I see a balloon over there, Susie. Did anyone do a little Valentine's? These are some flowers that my partner got me. Our house.
The balloon, it was my son's birthday on the 3rd. So luckily those ones last a while and they're a fun toy for him. So we keep them around for a long time, as long as we can.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
He says I'm at Mighty Networks and it won't show me the meeting link.
Do you
it's
have
almost as if you have to be invited. Do you have to be invited?
When I am the only one here and I am not Mighty Networks savvy in that way. How about we just text it to her or the link or send her it in an email? Could we do that?
I tried.
Do you want to give me her email address and I'll just do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me call her up. All right. She's at capital JULIE dot capital SOUTHARD dot HI at gmail.com.
All right. Let's see if that works. Should work. Julie.author.hi@gmail.com. Boom. Okay.
Really Southern.
If you could please tell her I emailed her the link then.
Okay.
And she can find it and she can come in.
Okay.
So as we're gathering let's just all breathe, because you made it here, which is kind of miraculous. And I know what it takes to carve out time for yourself with the fullness of your life. So it's important. I really honor you for making it here. Every little bit of time that we can have for ourselves can kind of, you know, cordon off is like it's feeding us. And I was realizing just again, yay, Julie, made it. Excellent. Took a moment, but you perseverance.
Yeah, I don't get it. I usually get an email and I didn't today.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just make sure that I'll just tell somebody, Julie.
Yeah, I need to be prepared and kind of look around. It's the same link every time, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a new link through Mighty Networks. Did not get email. Okay, just so I don't forget to.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sure. What I was saying is it's like, and I can really imagine how your tanks are running low. And we were talking about 2 years of COVID and how that kind of has squeezed us and continues to squeeze us. And, you know, the more we expand out, the more we give, the more we need to just like take little moments to really be nourished and really feed ourselves, literally feed ourselves good food, sleep, you know, breath, fresh air, just these little moments. And it does not have to be a lot because it just adds up. And I was realizing that for myself, that I took on a really big project, and it's kind of almost, it's like not the ideal time. Not that I don't know if there's ever an ideal time to take on a big project, but just that there needs to be more feeding as I'm doing more things and getting out of my comfort zone and doing all these kinds of things. So I think that's universal. And you as a rare mothers are always doing new things. You're always encountering new challenges, new health challenges, new possible health solutions, new, you know, there's just so much new. So you're on a continual growth curve. And that takes a lot to be on that growth curve. I just want to recognize. So, so today's focus is forgiveness. And so really forgiving yourself for just like, I feel like the first forgiveness is forgiving ourselves for our humanity, for the places where we fall short, where we feel like we fall short, where we give ourselves a hard time, where we wish we could do more, or we think we should do more. And so just really offering that forgiveness to ourselves for whatever it is that you might be kind of beating up on yourself about. And I think it's unfortunately a habit that we can fall into. I should do more of this or that. I mean, you can finish the sentence. And when we can forgive ourselves, then we can more graciously offer that in our relationships. We can forgive our partners, husbands, for their limitations and for the places where they're really trying and they're still not giving us what we would like in the way that we would like it. You know, they're making an effort, and it's somehow, even sometimes I find this, my partner makes an effort and it actually creates more work for me. And I appreciate his effort, you know? So I think we're just going to meditate and then leave enough time for everyone to share. And Holly will also do a little bit of journaling. So if you have a notebook or a piece of paper, so we'll just do that after this. Is there anything anyone wants to say about forgiveness before we just meditate a little? Okay. Just make yourself comfortable. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I think the recording is on. Great. All right. So So you can sit up, you can lay down. This is really time for you to feed yourself with the gift of your own attention. See if you can let your ears melt down away from your shoulders. And let your breath start to deepen. It can be nice to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Really extend your breath. Letting the mind rest on the breath, because your mind needs something to focus on. And so for now, just letting it focus on your breath. Let the jaw be soft. And as you breathe, see if you can allow the space in your chest where your heart is sitting. See if you can allow that space to begin to soften. And if it's helpful, you might want to rest a hand on your heart. Only if it's helpful. And as you're tending to this space of your heart, just notice that this is the space from which forgiveness arises. We can't think our way to forgiveness. True forgiveness is offered and received in the heart. And right now, I'm curious if there's something that you would be willing to forgive yourself for. You might even say, either out loud or internally, I forgive myself for, and complete that phrase. Just see what comes. You might be surprised. You're invited to welcome any feelings that might arise as you lean into self-forgiveness. Be patient and see what arises. And if there's any resistance, you can welcome that resistance, include it. Just take all the time you need. I forgive myself for take a moment now to thank yourself for being willing to forgive whatever it is, because forgiveness is a potent offering to give to yourself and to give to others. So let's take a moment and just journal about what it is that supports forgiveness. And is there something else that you want to forgive yourself for? Are there things that you actually are ready to forgive your partner for? Forgiveness is an act of generosity and kindness. I forgive myself, and we'll just take a few minutes. Maybe just a few minutes here. It's useful to breathe a lot. Breath creates space. Noticing what supports forgiveness, what gets in the way. Taking a little bit more time to complete your thought. Curious what came up in that meditation. What do you want to share with us about forgiveness? What supports your ability to forgive? What gets in the way? Or anything else you want to share? You're welcome to read what you wrote or refer to it. The writing is for you.
Hello. I think when I reflect on this, that like a negativity bias exists within like all humans and can creep into relationships, and inhibits forgiveness. What I mean by that is like this morning, my husband works really hard. He's a really high achieving guy and really intense about that work. And like last night, I went to bed and he was typing away at his computer. And I woke up this morning, he was in the exact same spot, wearing the exact same clothes, typing away at his computer. I went to bed at 10 and woke up at 6:30. And like when I walked down the stairs this morning, he didn't even look up. Like, right, like I walked right past him, kind of was like, "Hey, Dave, good morning." Like, didn't look up. And my negativity bias initially was like, man, like he's like, that's crummy. Like he's not leaning into this relationship. Like, I don't know. And there are a lot of stories I could make up about that. But like a positivity bias would lend towards forgiveness of like a, perceived harm, but instead just be like, wow, I married this like really high achieving guy who's has incredible ability to concentrate. And and he's doing this hard work and he's doing it for his family, and what a blessing it is to and like see the blessings in it. So that was my before cup of coffee forgiveness this morning.
And you were able
already
to shift it
before I actually put it in the coffee mug. I was already like in a better place. So I was like, thank God.
Amazing.
And this is all coming from, I listened to the 10% Happier podcast yesterday. It was how to not ruin a relationship. And I was like, whoa, that sounds important to me. And it was about these like trust and commitment are the two pillars. And then there are 7 stories to the house. And it's this Goodman's theory, and it's a husband and wife that have spent quite a bit of time. And it was really interesting. Listen, it's available free on podcast, 10%
Great.
Happier. And yeah, we've had like a really intense couple of weeks. My husband started traveling again, post like in this like endemic era. So he was out of the country for 2 weeks in a row. And I kind of realized that I don't want to be living in the town that have chosen to live in, because it's too far away from anybody who I can call at 2 a.m. And he was like on a work trip when I basically decided that for our family, and proceeded to start house hunting. And what I have needed to forgive myself for in this meditation is my impatience. And I often am very passionate, and I think it can serve me really well and serve our family well. But I also have such like security in like having made a decision and action oriented, and I just need to step back and sit with this concept of maybe moving to a different town for a month and see how that feels. And that like waiting between a feeling like a decision's right and actually making the decision is such an uncomfortable space for me. And we are doing that with our home. We are doing that with whether or not to have a third kid. And it's just really, it's a really uncomfortable place for me. So.
Total sense. Wow, there's a lot in there, Laura. There's a lot in there. I mean, one thing I just want to say is like, and I'm not even exactly sure what the connection is, but the thing where Dave didn't look up and say good morning, and I'll just reiterate is, when you say good morning, that is what, John Gottman calls a bid for attention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. And one of the most important things is that you look up, or you just say 1 second, you're focusing, you don't have to interrupt and lose your place, because if you're working on something very complicated, like also my partner does, like he cannot look up from his screen or he'll lose his place in 10,000 numbers. So, but there's a response is needed. So it's beautiful that you forgave him and you could look to the good. And there's also the piece of, hey, Dave, let's see if we can respond to these bids for attention, because there's some connection between the bid for attention and then you making a unilateral decision. Your family is like out of there, So, which is also like, yes, give it space. And one other thing is like, give it space and talk about it with your husband, right? It's a family decision. And if you're really feeling, it makes sense that you're feeling what you're feeling because it's too far away and he's traveling and it's not practical. It's not, I could see how that would be cause fear to arise, possibly even. And it just doesn't sound like it's totally workable. So yeah, responding for bids for attention, and then having these conversations, which just points to this like connection and forgiving ourselves for our impatience. I saw several of us nodding like, yeah, we know about impatience and maybe being impulsive, which is, as you said, a strength and a weakness, depending on where it lands. And yeah,
I have a question about the bids for attention thing, because I agree, like having been primed with Gottman's information yesterday, I was like, oh, he did not, what was the response? There's like 3 responses and his was like not optimal, obviously, but I wonder if there's a responsibility on the person asking for attention on like being really conscious of when you ask for bids for attention, because that's kind of where I resolved my hurt before I poured the coffee, was like, I know him pretty well at this point, and like maybe I shouldn't have. I mean, saying good morning is pretty innocuous, but like I don't know.
No, I get that. It's like try bidding for attention at 4 a.m. and waking someone up and saying, give me attention is exactly. A very different experience than asking at a good time when you're off work and you have a space. So I understand there's context matters, but there's room in there too.
Totally. And I think there's something about, Gottman also talks about like the good night, the bridge to good night, whether it's a kiss, a hug, of just like whatever, and then good morning, because we go to sleep and there's this pause, right? We're just in this other universe. And then we emerge and we say, oh, good morning. Like, oh, here we are again. Whoa, that's a mystery. Woke up again, And so there's something about that. I mean, I think that it is, I think that Susie said, there's context. You're not like, Dave, I want to talk to you about something, you know, and he's in the middle. So it seems like there's room for give on both sides, I would say. You know, yeah. Thank you for all of that. And yeah, that podcast sounds great. I've heard about it. I haven't listened to it. So what else came up for you around forgiveness? And also, Holly, you haven't been here, but please feel free to jump in and, you know, offer reflections to anybody. So, what else came up for anyone? Phyllis.
I have one. I am having a problem forgiving one of my adult children for not forgiving the sibling. I'm angry about it, and it's been going on for years, and it has something to do with their brothers passing, because it affected both of them in different ways and in similar ways. But I'm at a point where I can't keep forgiving it. It feels like I can't. Anyway.
So where does that leave you, Phyllis? Like what if you, because it might be actually true that you're done forgiving it and something else needs to happen. I mean, is it something you can address with them?
Yes, and in fact, in my writing, I am addressing it. And I don't want to present it because I have two wonderful adult kids, people that do everything they can to make my life easier and better and everything. And bringing it up is going to cause some bad feelings towards me. But I feel like I've got to do something about it because it's been going on too long. And it's not. Oh, which reminds me. I don't know if you can read this, but I'll read it to you. I have this pillow that says family. The people you live for, laugh with, and love. Those who support you unconditionally, who continually show up, stay up, and make up. Our family may not have it all together, but together we have it all.
Beautiful.
That's the way it's supposed to be. And that's the way it is.
Uh-huh. And that means
go ahead.
That means sometimes you have to say things that are hard and are going to be uncomfortable and they are not going to like. And you bring up a very interesting point, which is like the integrity of forgiveness, right? When am I really fully integrous in forgiving? And when am I forgiving and I'm actually, selling out? Like, is forgiveness enabling in this case? Is it enabling or supporting, avarice between them somehow or some kind of discord? It sounds to me though, Phyllis, and my experience is when something like forgiveness is like, there's a resolution, it kind of washes through and you're like, okay, that's done. I've forgiven them. I'm not holding on to it. They're not holding on to it. It's done. But because this is not done, this feels like it's like a mosquito. It's like, okay, I'm not going away until you do something about this. And maybe since you've written about it and since you're a beautiful writer, if it's easier, you could send it to them and say, I'd like to talk to you about this. Here's what I reflected on this morning. And I just, leaning in to the discomfort, as it were. I mean, I don't know what's right or wrong. And as I hear you, sounds like conversation is in order.
What did you say? Leaning in?
Leaning into the discomfort.
It's funny, I was thinking, Phyllis, I feel like any conversation like that always requires me to actually forgive myself for not having control over other people. And that seems so silly, but I think in my mind, I genuinely like think I should rule the world and should be able to have everything under control. And I'm working on letting that go. And so I think I have to work on that a lot of just like realizing that I don't have control over these people, but I do have needs and they're okay to talk about, and it, you know, and all of that. And so for me, so much of what I wrote down of needing forgiveness is just like for being human, for being unmotivated sometimes, for, you know, all these things that are just being human, and letting myself just accept that. Because I think whatever my journey is, whenever, you know, when you're talking about the things that get in the way of forgiveness, for me, it's the refusal to like accept a reality that I don't control these people or I don't control necessarily how I feel. I control my actions, you know, and so trying to embrace some like just the reality of where you are, even if you don't like it, is better than ignoring it or pretending that it's different or whatnot. So
Good.
Very well.
Do any of you have siblings? Other than, okay, well,
I have 6. 2, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, also just about having this discord in families. In my family, there have been in the past, I don't think so much in the present, mostly on my father's side, I think, this whole like not talking to someone for years. I'm sure they're not doing, I'm imagining they're not doing that, but that kind of holding on is so painful. It makes, there's no place for it where I mean, somebody would have to do something extremely horrible in my family for me to not want to talk to them. But just their own humanity, I think we have to work with that, as Susie said. And it really expressing needs around it. And you have a need, Phyllis.
I have something similar to Phyllis's, but Phyllis, it's with my husband's siblings. My parents have been passed away for a while. My husband's parents have passed away a long time ago. And I am very close to my 2 sisters. Even my older sister, who aborted a child that she found out was going to be like my son. We have since brought this to a loving relationship that wasn't a loving relationship before. We get along, we communicate. So when I met my husband, and he didn't want to know any of his, you know, he said, no, that was in the past. That was when we were little, we had to know each other. So he has since connected with his younger brother, which is something that I pushed for. And he said, okay, yeah, now we go see him every year. But his sister, and I need to forgive him for this, because this is up to him, not me. His sister, something happened 15 years ago. It had to do with the kids thinking that the 2 of the kids weren't from the same father. And the sister wanted to go and find her real father. She was convinced that her father wasn't the rest of them's father. And my husband, it made him so mad. It put this rift between them. And since then, he just has had no communication with her. So last month, she reached out to me on Facebook, and she says, I think you're my sister-in-law. And this long, beautiful message about how she would like to reconnect with her brother, my husband. And it, you know, if I feel led to reach out to her and give her at least my phone number or whatever. So I read it to my husband and he's like, that's a manipulative, that there's secret things in that message. Please don't contact her. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to contact her based on what he's telling me. He doesn't want me to. And recently, it was Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, I asked him if I could at least contact his sister, the one that we're in contact with, and see what she thinks. And he said, yes, yeah, go ahead and do that. And she'll tell you exactly what I'm telling you. And I sent the whole message to his sister and she responded just like my husband acted. And she said, no, this is manipulative. Don't do it. You really don't want to get to know her. But I still, in my heart, I hold this against my husband because to me, more family is better. And I want him to get to know her, but he doesn't want to. And
what would it take for you to forgive him then?
I thought it was that. I thought it was if that other sister came back saying the same thing, I thought that I could easily forgive him, but I'm still not. I don't know.
That would be a good place to sit because forgiveness it comes from a sort of a wholehearted generosity, I would say.
Right. And it hasn't
Without
necessarily
an agenda. It's almost like you still have, it's like an agenda, like I'll forgive you if. But forgiveness doesn't have a contingencies or, it doesn't insist on certain things.
right.
And it only takes one. It only takes one. And the sooner we forgive, the sooner our hearts can soften and love can flow both ways. And I'm not saying this is easy.
Right.
I'm saying this is a possibility.
So today was the first time I turned off my camera. I just wanted to let you know that it was easier for me to focus on forgiveness because I was thinking I've got no unforgiveness in my heart. That's just not like me. I forgive easily and quickly. And that came to mind. And it helped me having my camera off.
You're welcome to turn your camera off if it supports you. And it's nice when you're speaking, then you turn it back on. There's no, either way is fine. And we like to see each other. Let us know how that goes. Okay, Julie?
Definitely.
It sounds like something that's calling for attention.
Yes.
Yeah. What else is here, ladies?
Yes, I'll go. Well, relating to family stuff, but a lot of what came up today was, I guess, really forgiving myself. Just because everything's been really hard. So sorry, I'm trying not to cry.
You can cry. Your tears are welcome here.
Everything's just been really hard and just really burnt out. So I've been really hard on myself. And really this year trying to work more on positive affirmations to myself and forgiving myself. And then also forgiving some family because we have like no family help. So that makes it really hard when we don't have like a support group. So we're doing everything on our own and that just is really hard, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate. So just really trying to work on self-love and then finding time for myself, which is really hard to do sometimes.
Really, so hard.
I'm glad I found your group, thanks to a social worker. I had never heard of you guys. So I had been in a couple different groups and the whole time I was like, man, I just really need to find like a rare mothers group that understands. Go figure. There is one.
Yeah, so good. So good you found this group and Angel Aid.
Me too. So anything I can learn from you guys will be helpful.
Vice versa.
We're so glad we found you because your sharing will help us. Thank you for sharing.
I was gonna say, with those positive affirmations, yesterday my son's school got canceled because they had a power outage, strangely enough. So school was canceled, and I was starting to beat myself up because we did nothing productive. Like, I didn't do anything, you know what I mean? Like, we did 0 things that were educational by nature, and starting to beat myself up. And I was like genuinely having a smidge of flashbacks to like the first 2 years of my son's existence, of when I was constantly beating myself up and constantly being like, I should be doing more. There's so much I'm not doing, all of that stuff. And the forgiveness was that reminder of like, okay, how can I forgive myself for thinking those things about myself to begin with, a little bit, like needing to be like, forgive that voice in my head, and also be grateful that it's a lot quieter than it used to be, or that I can be aware of it. But it's just funny how quickly those like cycles of forgiveness, or how quickly you can practice, and then you're like, oh man, that came hard and fast out of nowhere. And, you know, there's behaviors I need to change. There's things we can do. And also I need to just relax and say it's one day. And just because I can't pivot on a dime because my son's thing got canceled, and I'm not ready to just pretend I'm a special ed preschool teacher at the drop of a hat, also doesn't make me a terrible person. So, you know, it's holding all of those things all at once has been my last 48 hours.
So great. Yeah, you definitely need to forgive yourself for not being a special ed preschool teacher, like at the drop of a hat, that you had nice little projects with the little things cut out, and a little cooking project and an art project and blocks and outdoor activity. No. Yeah. And I think this just like forgiving, I really like how you put that. It's like the cycles of forgiveness happen quickly. And they happen as quickly as we can recognize, oh, I'm starting to beat myself up. I'm starting to go down that the rabbit hole of the inner critic, self-flagellating one who's like, you should be doing this. Why aren't you doing this? And you should be further ahead, and you should know more. And you should be, you know, whatever your shoulds are. You know, we keep cycling back to these shoulds because they really get in the way. They get in the way. They take a lot of energy. And so as soon as you realize it, you can take a big breath and just say, like, yeah, I should, and I would if I could. And how about what I'm doing? What I'm doing, who I'm being, is enough. And it's astounding to me, honestly, that this enoughness thing just comes up. It's like, even after so many years of practice and self-love and all these things, we bump into these like layers of, well, this idea, well, I would be enough if, you know, if I were in this kind of physical shape, if I read this many books, if I did this many cooking projects with my kid, if I researched for how many hours a day, I mean, whatever. So give yourself space and appreciate, right? Because the other side is, I'm going to appreciate myself. I'm going to appreciate what I am doing. And as Laura said, I'm going to appreciate what my husband is doing to contribute. So then I'm filling up the space. It's almost like I'm filling it up with the like rose petals of appreciation. So that all of a sudden we're just like living in a sea of ever fresh, ever fragrant rose petals. Sounds nice, doesn't it? You can just pick them up and you can just play with them, or like rub them on your skin, or sprinkle them on your bed. So, Sherry, got anything for us there, dear? I bet you do.
I don't really think I do. I couldn't really think of anything to write even. Just real unusual for me. I could only think of things that I needed to stop doing. I don't want to forgive myself for doing. I want to stop doing. Thinking other people should do more. I need to stop doing that. And I that's all I could think of even. And it really worries me that I think like that all the time, that somebody should do something, 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 and then something else. And I shouldn't think like that.
It's a great direction to interrupt that shoulding on other people. And I wonder if forgiving yourself for doing it could make actually room for shifting that habit pattern. You know, like, because what happens is when I should think they should, and then I get mad at myself for thinking they should,
Right.
that's taking
Right.
up a lot of mental bandwidth and sort of like
Yes.
taking up my space. So what if I forgive myself for doing it? I'm not making it okay. I'm not saying, yeah, keep going. That's okay. I'm just saying, all right, well, I did that and I realize I don't want to do that anymore. So let me just like give myself space, forgive myself, and make room. That would be an interesting exploration to just
Okay.
forgive.
Wait a
Forgive
minute.
yourself.
Wait a minute. Now I'm getting confused.
Uh-oh.
Because with the siblings, one is thinking that the other should do more than is being done, and the other is thinking the other should be doing things more.
Oh,
You told me to face the reality and help them get together and talk about this, and so maybe, Sherry, maybe the ones that you're saying should do something, you need to talk to them. I don't know, just an idea.
True too.
yeah. Yeah. I agree, Phyllis.
I'm gonna say too, sometimes that like, don't think of a polar bear when you're like, don't think like that. Where it's like, how can we switch that to saying like, I'm forgiving that person for not having the space or not being willing to help, or for whatever reason that they're not doing that, like being able to have it be an active of like, I'm going to forgive them for their shortcomings, for whatever, so that it goes from that like stop to like I'm going to offer that like release. Because I was listening to a great podcast and they were talking about forgiveness, and the follow statement was always, and then you find out it was you, and you realize that every time you're forgiving another person, you're actually forgiving yourself. And so that offer of forgiveness to another person, you're offering them freedom from whatever expectation you had, and then you realize that it was actually you who needed that freedom, or you who needed that forgiveness. But that cycle.
That makes sense. Thanks, Susie.
Mm-hmm.
There.
And Laura helped me put it in perspective when she said that this was something that was affecting me. And so I could approach the subject from, this is affecting me.
Exactly.
And so I wanted to discuss it, or let you discuss it or something.
Right.
Yeah, because it's important that they realize that it is affecting you, that they're close. I mean, it sounds like they're shutting down and they're judging and they're shoulding. And there might be room for them to appreciate each other. Like, what are they doing? And if it's true that the balance is really off, then let's be honest about that. But it just feels like there's not appreciation, and maybe there's room to take some more responsibility in there for who is showing up and how they're showing up and how they're not.
In a situation like that, where you're having this discussion, what are the rules?
That's a very good question. I would outline those ahead of time. I would certainly have no crosstalk. I would probably do like a talking stick or set a timer so that we're not attacking and defending, but we're just really listening. I would definitely set a non-interruption space, an active listening space for sure. And I would ask them, I would definitely have a third party present, which may be you or maybe somebody else. Just somebody to hold the space so that it doesn't become a ping pong, unproductive ping pong match where feelings just get thrown around. Sounds like an opportunity for healing, Phyllis. That's what it sounds like to me.
Mhm.
Laura, I know you wanted to say something.
Unproductive ping pong match where feelings just got thrown around. I think you just described the majority of my conversations with my husband. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, you could just, if you call it that, right, it's kind of humorous. We're like, you could just be like, wow, we're getting into this unproductive. I mean, unproductive ping pong is like where one person is slamming. You can't just know you're trying, you're hitting. And it's not a good idea. Yeah, and unproductive. Let's steer clear as soon as we realize. And I mean, I get into it too. If I realize I'm getting into an unproductive ping pong match, it's just like pause. Whether it's with my daughter, whether it's with my partner, whether it's with myself. Right? Where you're ping ponging around in your own head. It's like, we can stop that right now. Yeah. Being aware. So what is our practice then? What are we going to practice? What do you want to take away from all of this?
Give permission to forgive yourself on a certain issue, maybe.
Yeah, what if we take this week and we really practice self-forgiveness intentionally? It's like put it front burner. I'm going to forgive myself. And which means noticing when I'm going into giving myself a hard time and when I'm going into giving someone else a hard time, which is essentially judging, criticizing, all that kind of, and you know the feeling of that, right? Doesn't feel very good. Usually tight, maybe heavy, maybe pokey, you know, it has a certain, there are certain identifiers. And we do it, we all do it. So when we bring it to our attention, then we can say, I think this a little bit is like what you're talking about, Susie. It's just like, how quickly can I forgive? I notice the cycle and I say, oh, I'm not going to do that. Okay, let me take, and it can be as simple as a few breaths, hand on your heart, few breaths, or maybe it's just like shaking it out. Just put on music for 1 minute and shake your body out, something. Might be going outside and giving making some loud sounds. You never know. You have to let the energy move, basically, whatever it is. Maybe it's tears. So, all right, we will practice self-forgiveness.
You know, that might be fun having music sometime, because at our first retreat that we had, the last night, the girls were outside dancing to music.
Love it.
Half the night. Maybe we need a little release like that in our group.
We could do that maybe sometime. Instead of meditation, we'll do dance, we'll do move. It's called, here in California, we call it movement meditation, which is basically just like dancing and letting your body move however you want it to move, or however it wants to move. Well,
I was wondering where Holly is from.
Yeah.
Well, we live in Durham, North Carolina, originally from North Carolina, but from Boone, North Carolina.
Okay,
North
thanks.
Carolina.
Yeah.
So what do we have? We have, just say where you're from and then we'll go. I'm in California, North Carolina. Julie,
Kansas.
Laura,
Massachusetts.
Phyllis,
Southern California.
Susie,
Washington State.
Terry.
Auburn, Alabama.
We've got it covered pretty well.
We should introduce ourselves one time too, so everybody knows each other better. And I mean, I think we relate really well as a group, but to be a newcomer, I'm sure it's hard to jump into all these people you don't know and tell about yourself and your innermost feelings, you know.
Well, thank you for jumping in, Holly.
Yes, definitely.
We have known each other here for some time, and I'm just so happy to have you. And please come regularly if you can swing it. It's really helpful. People are nodding. It's really helpful. And then you build these connections. And also I'll just say you can reach out to each other through Mighty Networks. And I think that's a great thing to do, build the relationships. Everyone's name is in there. If there's any confusion about how to do that, you can reach out to Erin. Erin is the coordinator. You're also welcome to reach out to me if you have questions. And please, some of these, like the podcast, like if you're a great podcast, just post it in this group and be like, you know what, this was great, check it out. Because then if we check it out, who knows, maybe we'll have a discussion based on a podcast or an article or a poem, and if you have any writings you want to post of your own or anyone else's, so just feel free to make offerings. I'm really focusing lately on just like filling up with inspiration. It just feels really important also because of this long drawn out lack, hasn't been totally lacking in inspiration, but it's put a damper, as we know, on so many things that are inspiring to experience and do and receive. So
And as
Holly, come on
far
Thursday.
apart as we are, location wise, you can feel our hugs that we get.
yeah, big hug, and I will see you all next week. All right. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.